So, the bit of the show that I know you guys at home are always emailing us about, our topic of the week. I'm going to introduce you once again, if you've just sat down to watch the show, to our co-hosts. We have Dr. Sarah Brooks, Jessica Hugh, and of course, Sue Augusta. So ladies, are you ready for the topic of the week?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, topic of the week this week is, are working mothers to blame for the rise in teenage pregnancies? What do we think? Jessica, can I start with you, my darling? Your mum. Let me start with you.
I'm a mum,
Yes.
actually a teenage mum, not anymore. I'm 28 now, but certainly 10 years ago I was, when I was pregnant with my daughter Monet. Absolutely not. I mean, certainly I think we learn from our mothers. We learn by example, and in my own daughter's case, she sees me and saw me go to college, saw me go to university, and thinks, well, that's the natural route for me when I finish school. So I think that's just sort of ludicrous argument.
So I can see you nodding here.
Yes.
Well, what's your thoughts on it, babe?
Absolutely not. My mother was a working mother, and I think it's poor parenting more rather than just the mothers at work.
Now, Sarah, you're originally from Australia.
Yes.
So what's it like in Australia? Is it the same as here in terms of teenage pregnancy?
I haven't been back for a long time, but I didn't see as much there as I do here. Not to say that I'm right, but no, not as far as
as much as you're aware.
That's
now,
right.
according to both of your arguments, what you're saying then is that actually if you have a positive role model, then the chances are you're not going to be pregnant.
In some cases, both my parents worked full-time, and my dad was always very, very education-focused, but I chose to do otherwise. I think what the real problem in this country is a lack of sense of purpose amongst our young people, particularly our young black people, and it's a multicultural show, but there's a very high number of black and mixed-race teenage mums in this country. And just as the boys get sort of marginalised in the education system and ends up getting into criminal activity because they have nothing to lose, I think the girls think, well, might as well be a mum. It'll give me a sense of purpose and something to do with my life.
Sue, you're nodding, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. I came from a great background. My parents, they're doing fantastic.
So did I, Mum and Dad. Thank you.
So yeah, they were likewise was my role models. So I didn't really necessarily have to look outside. So I was lucky. I knew that I could get there. And they came to this country, both, and they didn't have half of what they had now, but they managed to get there. And so if they'd given me all this privilege, all this education, all this support, all these extracurricular activities, piano, ballet, etc., etc., then if I can't make it, then there's no. They've given you every opportunity. So, but if you don't come from that kind of background, you have to look outside. And maybe in this country, there's not enough
of that.
Inspiring
but Sue,
people.
there's an argument. I'm sorry to cut you, my darling, but there's an argument that here we are. The modern day women were working every hour of God sent. We're not at home, therefore we haven't got time to nurture the kids. We haven't got time to feed into them, whether it be education, whether it be about extracurricular activities, especially those that are not of middle class bracket. I'm talking working class, where the money is not as free flowing as maybe somebody who was working class. What about that argument?
Yeah, I understand if you don't have the resources, it's not about money and sending you to extracurricular activities, it's the actual time you spend with the child. But if you're out working to support your family, there is a difficulty there, and you have to find another way. There's always another way. You just have to think positive. Oh, right, I sound so, it's so possible. But people
well, it
are
is. I mean, look at Jessica. Jessica, so tell us your living proof. How did you do it? You were a teenage mum. How did you do it to make sure that your young lady was...
For me, my daughter was, the making of me, and I certainly would never advise anyone else to go out and get pregnant at 17 to find themselves. But for me, I feel very strongly, I have a very strong faith, and I believe that was my path. But when my daughter was born, my drive and ambition was born with it, and she was, I think, 4 months when I went back to college, and then went straight to university, and very quickly started working 7 days to forge a career, and I've had a great career in media and worked for, the top media establishments, BBC London Radio, and obviously Max and Pride, and yeah, I mean, for me, I wanted to be a good role model, and I wanted to show her that anything is possible, and it's... I guess it's work, because I have a burgeoning young businesswoman in the form of my 9-year-old.
Really?
Yeah.
Sending you back cash flows already.
Absolutely.
But okay, I want to just pull in one other argument that's been presented to me in the past, and that is that it's all well and good that we're go-getters, but if we don't have stable husbands or male partners, then there's an imbalance in the home, and subsequently our young girls will go out there, not understand the role of a man, and the first man she meets, she ends up using her sexuality to be loved, use her sexuality, she gets pregnant. What do we think about that? Sarah's like, she's like, what nonsense.
Yes, well, my parents were divorced when I was quite young, so, but I did have a stepfather, so I did have a role model, but not a very strong one, and I certainly didn't do that.
And my parents are still married, you know, and I did do that. So I don't know, I think it's an individual thing, but I think staying in touch, mentally involved with your children, particularly through those teen years, is really, really important, whatever class you're from.
Great stuff. I'm going to cut you here as we go to commercial break, but when we come back, we will be asking our audience members what they think. Are working mothers to blame for the rise in teenage pregnancy? See you in 2. Hello and welcome back to Sisterhood, the show that's all about multicultural women who are bold, beautiful and in business. It's our New York special, and for the topic of the week this week, we're asking the question, are working mothers to blame for the rise in teenage pregnancy? Now, before we went to the break, our co-host had some real strong views, but now I want to find out what our audience have to say. So, audience, in the break, you guys were chatting away. There was lots going on, so who wants to start first?
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a difficult one because I think to purely blame the mothers is not really fair. A lot of mothers are single parents and they've got no choice but to work. So I think it's less about the working mum angle, but more about discipline, communication with their children. Or children, men can't have babies. So communication. I think it's what's going on is a lack of communication. And therefore maybe the girls are looking at other role models or supposedly role models for guidance, and it might not be the right way, like, you know, short skirts mean sexy, and no it doesn't.
Okay, so, I can see the lady at the back there is nodding.
Well, I was just thinking about what went on before. I was thinking no one's actually talked about love and affection, and those are the fundamentals that you give a child, and without love and affection you can't take them to the next stage, whether it's education or extracurricular activities, etc. So that's the fundamentals, and that's where you build a relationship with your child, where they feel comfortable in coming and talking to you about anything that's going on in their life. Yeah, because they will be influenced by peers, etc., etc. And I'm sure you guys had a wonderful relationship with your mother, so you were able to do that.
Okay, so I suppose too, are you right? You agree? You're agreeing there?
That's a really nice point, because you grow to trust your parents and their guidance. You'll accept it as they've got your best interests at heart, and then it follows from there. Yeah, that's a really excellent point.
So I suppose the question then is, well, what's going wrong? Because our young children are getting pregnant.
What this lady said was a very valid point, because if lack of love and affection is at home, they're going to go out for the love and affection, which is in the arms of a man who may not be right for them, which equals pregnancy. So I think that was a very valid point.
So is that so what we're saying then is that's the only reason? There's no role models, no love and affection, and subsequently they're having babies.
And lack of communication.
It's one of the fundamentals.
But is there not an education angle to this? I mean, are our children as adapting to contraception and things like that? I mean, are they being informed of what could happen? I mean, I know it sounds naive, but I know my niece who's 12 or 13 starts talking about, oh, boys, this, that. No one mentions condoms or, you know, sex education. I think that's something we had as growing up as teenagers, but that's something that's now, it's more about being cool, all this sort of stuff, and not about contraception.
I'm not sure, because as a marketeer, we've done work with a lot of government-based agencies that are pushing the message out about teenage pregnancy and safe sex. I would pose the question as to what's going on with the media, because I don't know about anybody here, but I can flick over on Sky and some of the images that are coming out about women, and you know, we've talked on the show before about sexuality, but some of the images, they're just horrendous.
Do you know, I was actually watching Skins the other day.
Who?
Skins,
okay.
I was shocked.
First of all, what is
I was shocked. I was still shocked though, because it's targeted to that age, which, so we're talking like, what, 16 to 17?
Okay,
I hear what you're saying, but because there is a watershed thing, as you did throw in there, Jess. But that program which you just talked about there is actually, even though the truth is in the joke, there's a big reflection of the facts of what goes on in places like that. And also, if you take your mind away from places like London, which is a sprawling metropolis, you look at other places like probably places like Toxteth in Liverpool, or various other places, you know, in terms of Manchester. You've got Birmingham. You look at all those underdeveloped places. I mean, if we could, I don't know if anybody can sort of hark back or reflect back on a point where there was this young girl who was missing, and she was just sort of like 10 minutes down the road at her supposed relative. If you looked carefully, if you just take away from that subject and just looked at the people that were there, if you look at how poor they are and look at the lack of communication and education, the way that these mothers are holding like cans in their hands and they don't care, they're looking like gypsies. I was actually shocked and appalled by the fact that we have a society that don't take care of all those deprived areas in order to get a better education.
Yeah. Is it economics then?
I don't know if it's economics. I still think it's education, because in terms of teenage pregnancy, the UK has the worst record. If you look at other parts of Europe, they've got poverty, they've got worse poverty than we've got in parts of France. You don't have the same level of teenage pregnancies as we have here. So there's obviously something deep-seated and underlying. What that is, we don't know. I think that's why I'm thinking. Maybe it's something to do with education.
No, I totally agree.
Okay, it's not sex education. The young people are aware of the fact that if you don't use a condom or other forms of contraception, you get pregnant. It's what else is there for me. You grow up in an estate. It's not an environment for prosperity, to nurture prosperity in young people. What we need is young people like myself, like this panel, people who young people can relate to, you know, not the Peter Jones and Sir Alan, who the kids can't relate to. People who've got a story to tell and say, yeah, I grew up in Ladbroke Grove Estate, and I got pregnant at 17, and then I got my degree, and now I have a global business. You know, we need to show by example that you can be whatever you want to be, wherever you're coming from. You know, and we need to encourage. I mean, I went to number 10 Downing Street recently. I was one of 10 entrepreneurs invited to discuss how we can nurture a more enterprising culture amongst the youth. And what is missing is you go to school and they teach you how to go and work for someone else. They don't try and instill in you a sense of how you can be a business person and make money. And, you know, that's what's missing.
Okay.